Good morning to all those who have currently joined me. This will be, fortunately for you, the last Friday morning that you'll see my face first thing in the morning. So hopefully we can just whip through the last bit of today and then give you as much information as possible. But as I said today, we're going to wait about 3 or 4 minutes and then kick off. So get a coffee, get a drink, get a pad, get some paper, get a pen, get whatever you need, and we'll kick off shortly. Right then, let's kick off for now anyway. So, Dale, morning. Alina, Catherine, Iona, Elisabetta and Nastia, very nice to, I would say see you this morning, but I can't see you, but very nice for you to join us this morning. I hope your week has gone very well. Okay, so let's kick off. Today, we're roughly rounding off my segment of the getting into the university part of the Ready for Excellence side of things, okay? And today we're doing choosing the right university course and then a bit of interview training in there as well. Whatever happens, by Q2 at the absolute backstop, hopefully a little bit earlier, I'm going to stop, just so that you've got the chance to ask any questions from the last 4 weeks that you may have. If you have no questions, that's absolutely fine, but just in case you do and you want me to go over anything, we will absolutely stop at a certain point. As ever, today, please join in with me, just so I know you're there, but also because it's always useful for you to be part of what is actually happening. Okay, right, okie dokie. Let's start with this then. So choosing the right university, etc. But you'll know me from the past 4 weeks. So what I actually like to do is I've come up with 4 riddles and puzzles and things just to warm you up. And today's focus is obviously on interviews and making a successful application beyond the actual written part of the course. So today we're going to start with this, okay? Forgive the music. If it's not coming through properly on your speakers, then don't worry, it's just to really liven the whole thing up for you. So I want you to answer these for me, warms your brain up, and ultimately, as ever, I'll come round to the point. So here we are, the first warm-up riddle of the day is on your screen. As ever, please type in the chat box what you think the answer to this is going to be. So a boy and a doctor are fishing. The boy is the doctor's son. However, the doctor is not the boy's father. So who is the doctor? I will explain the point to you after. And whilst you are working these out, I'm merrily typing away in the message box for me. And all I need is one person with the right answer, and we move forward from this point. First, the idea behind choosing the right course and choosing the right university is always trying to find something that is personal to you at the end of the day. Always trying to find what it is that you actually are going to enjoy in your future. I did a few interviews this week, and all I ever kept hearing from the students is what my family want me to go into, or what my family do. And that's almost the exact opposite of how you should actually choose what your future should be. So, pausing for breath for a moment. The warm-up riddle here, number one, what is the answer for me, please? Anyone, everyone. I'm going to start by picking on Alina if no one else can. So what is the answer for me, please? Godfather is a good answer, but don't it's not the Godfather. Read it really carefully. A boy and a doctor are fishing. The boy is the doctor's son, so the doctor can't be the godfather. However, the doctor is not the boy's father. Okay, maybe too early in the morning. Of course it is. Look, here's the simple part of anything. The answer is his mother, okay? As with all of the things you'll know with me, the answer is right in front of you. And the trick to what we'll come up to in interviews is nothing is trying to catch you out. It's just trying to make you think and aid a conversation. Read the question really carefully. Here you go. A monkey, a squirrel, and a bird race to the top of the coconut tree. Who do you think will get the banana first? The answer is right in front of you. Anyone and everyone. Monkey, squirrel, bird, race to
No
the top of
one.
the coconut tree. Who's going to get the banana first? Go on. Finish me off on this one. Won't make you do any more. The answer is right in front of you. And if I've taught you nothing over the past 4 weeks, it's ultimately that all you need to do is read the question really carefully and listen to the other person. Any volunteers?
No one will get a banana.
Who will?
No one will get a banana.
And none of them
It's a
because it's a
coconut tree.
coconut tree. You're very good towards the whole thing. Okay, we won't bother doing the other ones in here for the sake of moving forward. But everything is always in front of you, and an interview and choosing the right course is no different. Okay, we'll come to the interview side later and why those questions are actually relevant for you as even practice and training. But when you're looking to choose courses, when you're looking to choose the right university, ultimately we go down to enjoyment, we go down to what is interesting to you, but you also need to keep a vague awareness onto where you're most employable from. Okay, you can look at any numbers of statistics, league tables, all of these other sorts of things, but ultimately be guided more by when you're choosing a university, what the career prospects from that university are. And it doesn't mean that just going to Oxford, Cambridge, and all the Russell Group makes you more employable. The graph in front of you will show you that roughly you're going to be in a better bracket, of course, but that's in medium to small London firms. What about if you want to go into Pixar and you want to go into work in digital animation? Then the best university you could possibly go to out there is Bournemouth. Okay, so always look at what the career prospects are whenever we're going through and you're doing your research. But where you're employable from is what I like students to really focus in on when choosing anything. Before we even get to university, though, we are at the A-level stage, and if you're still choosing your subjects, we touched a little bit on this in week one, but always try and make it roughly relevant from the outset. We want to keep doors and routes open as early as we possibly can, okay? So try and choose subjects that will do that. The ones on your screen now, the English, the maths, the physics, biology, chemistry, geography, history, and modern foreign languages, all are what we call door wedges. So courses that will always allow you to jump off to different points throughout the course of your A-level study. So if you don't know what you want to do, keep your course and your routes open, but try and get at least one of these subjects into your mix as a good door wedge to move across. All right. If you know what you want to do, though, then ultimately it ties itself a little bit neater to how you actually plan at the A-level stage. which is this. Some notable exceptions is medicine, dentistry, veterinary, where you need biology and chemistry in your mix, all right? Engineering, you'll always need maths and physics. Law, you must have a humanities or an essay-based subject in there. Computer science, you need mathematics in there at the very least. Architecture, you used to need maths and physics, now you just need art in your mix. Okay, so if you roughly have an idea at this stage, try and tie your A-levels together to make the route more accessible. If you don't know, just make sure you have one of those facilitating subjects in your list and then build your program of study around it. That means that by the time you come to this, choosing the right university, choosing the right course, you've got a good option and a good chance of being able to choose whatever it is that you like. Okay. So do your research. Back to this idea of selling me the pen, selling the ruler, selling yourself as a commodity. You need to do the research first. And before you even start talking to people, you need to have a little bit of a look round. Your starting position shouldn't be Oxford, shouldn't be Cambridge, shouldn't be any of the universities that you decide you want to go to. It should start with the UCAS website, which is the central administrative body, but it's also a very good search engine. Okay, so www.ucas.com, and go in there, and before you start going down the university route, type in the course that you'd look to do. Okay, and it will come up with all the providers that are offering that course for the academic cycle that you're looking to apply to. Throughout the course of that list, you'll see the universities that you may already have thought of, and obviously a plethora of other universities that you could think of there. I want you to read about the courses first. I want you to understand what it is you want to study before you understand where it is that you want to study that course. Because courses, while they are the same in name, differ from university to university in terms of the approach, the style, the setup, the modules. The greatest examples to this are things like history and English literature and law, where there are different specialisms on offer. Okay, so use these subject guides first to understand. If you don't know what you want to study, and we'll come to this in a moment, but you can take various tests that will actually give you a bit of a sense, give you some suggestions as to what the course is that you want to do. I always find with those that they can be helpful, but ultimately they're always going to throw up the same sort of things to you. They're always going to suggest lawyer or doctor or fireman or whatever it is within that. What I really think students should always do is try and work out what you enjoy studying now at school, try and work out what your interests are beyond that, and then at university, particularly if you want to study at university in the UK, you take a course that you're going to be interested in for 3 years. It doesn't need to match up necessarily with the career that you want to have the other side. One of the most alarming statistics in the UK is most people don't find out what career they want to do until their mid to late 20s, which means that you've got quite a lot of time on your hands to try different jobs and things out first. Okay, but that's in many ways the glory of the English education system, is it gives you time on your hand to find that out. Open days, virtual tours. The post-COVID world is still not quite the post-COVID world, so a lot of things are still happening online. Therefore, you have no excuse not to see these. Universities all adapted to put virtual and very good campus tours onto their websites, so make sure you log into a few of these as well, so you can see and get a feel. Gut feeling is everything. As well as liking a course, if you rock up and you don't like the way the architecture looks, or you don't get a particularly good feel about the gym there or whatever it is, it's an important part of that shopping list of things that you should be looking out for. So attend the open days and see what your gut feel is. A little bit anecdotally for you, back when I applied for university, you had 6 choices. Obviously you have 5 now, but you used to have 6 choices towards the whole thing. At that point, what I thought was my number 1 university ended up being my number 6 university, and my number 6 university ended up being my number 1 university, purely based upon the feel of the place when you go there. You know when something is right, and that's simply what you should always act upon. So try and look through as much of the material that UCAS provides for you. Just see it as a very specific form of Google. Okay, Google will be roughly useful for you, but UCAS will be far more tailored and direct for what it is that you want to need. Now, learn from other students as well. Talk to other people, maybe talk to your peers or friends who might have gone on to university, get their sense as to what they feel about the place that it is they're studying. If you're lucky enough to have some friends at university already, go and visit them if you can. Go and soak up the environment. Go and be an early form of a student to an extent, of course, but go and be an early form of a student there, so you get a bit of a sense as to what it is to be beyond the academic confines, and whether you actually like the place as much as anything. Places like the student room, people love that. I would say it's good, but take it with a pinch of salt as well, because it's an open forum and everyone will have a view on something. And it's a bit like TripAdvisor in a way. You'll find lots of people that say good things, and you might find a couple of people that say a couple of negative things. And the human brain will always just focus on the negative. Okay, so if you're going to go to forums and things like that, try and sift through what you're actually looking for and get the advice, but don't take it to heart. Okay, just listen to what other people say and sift through it as best you possibly can. Have a filter towards the whole thing. But through universities and websites now, they also put quite a lot of emphasis onto blogs and student videos, which come from the student unions. So you get more of the student perspective. And student unions at universities operate independently of the university themselves. Yes, they're part of the whole thing, but they're essentially the student voice, the student lobbying. So what you actually find is those are far more accurate versions of what it is you should actually be listening to, rather than just the marketing that the university puts out. And always, when you're choosing a university and choosing a course, remember that universities are businesses at the end of the day. They want you, you're their money, you're the commodity in the whole thing. So what you really want to do as well is try and just actually see beyond the marketing buzz. So look, through the UCAS website, you can do a careers quiz, you can do a careers finder tool. There are tests that you can do independently through various schools. We obviously do one here that students do early on as well. But again, just see the suggestions and see whether it's actually something you're going to enjoy. Choosing the right university, when you're looking through these things and you've got your shopping list, look at the style to start with. There are different types of universities. Style and location often go together here. We have campus universities and we have city-based universities. Campuses are a bit like more mature boarding schools in a way. They operate outside of a city most of the time, and everything is, your life is on that campus. All right, particularly for the first year. City-based universities tend to be spread out a little bit more across a city, and therefore you get a slightly less of the campus feel, but certainly slightly more of the city being in the middle of a vibrant, bustling environment feel towards it. So what are you looking for at the end of the day? That can have a major influence on the environment, on people's lifestyle, on the options, on the accommodation available. So do look into the accommodation and the living costs of doing it as well. London is the biggest draw for everyone, but obviously comes with a higher price tag for the living costs, not just the operational cost of the university. So keep that in mind when you're looking. The size of the university can equally be important for a lot of people. Some people don't mind being in a large environment, but some universities can get up to 20,000 students. Okay, 20,000 is a lot. You are then a small fish in a big pond at that point. Other universities, particularly some of the more campus-based universities within there, have a smaller number of students that might be within the university itself. And for many people, that can also be a decisive factor. Cultural facilities available. I would always encourage people to choose a university based upon great facilities too, because you want the sport, you want the music, you want the drama, you want the shops, you want the nightlife, you want the clubs, you want all of these things that go into it, remembering that university is as much an experience as it is an academic pursuit for 3 years. University is your chance to grow up, it's your chance to join the adult world, and quite frankly, it's going to be your only opportunity to actually have these 3 years. So make the most of them and make sure that you have a shopping list of exactly what you want on there. Equally, going to the living side of things, some dormitories are shared, some are en suites. Some have shared bathrooms, some have shared kitchens, for example, and some are like little flats. Try and work out what it is that you want to do there. Anecdotally, again, I had a student contact me last week who left it all the way to the last minute and then managed to miss the deadline for choosing his accommodation. That's a crime. Okay, you've had so long to choose, one, the university, and two, where it is you want to stay. If you ignore the university, you're going to get stuck in accommodation that you may or may not want to belong to. Therefore, always keep on top of the things that you want, otherwise you will lose your voice as to what it is that you're going to get. Graduate destinations, we spoke about that before. And for a lot of you, fees are going to be a huge factor in this too, okay? You have obviously the tuition fees, you have the living cost fees of being at the university itself, okay? And then you have the fees for the things that you just want to do. So how much extra money do you want left over? So try and do yourself a little budget from the outset when you're choosing your university. Choosing the right course, back to where we started. What does the course cover? Courses with the same title do differ. So you look at the core content, and we go back to the personal statement that we did a week ago, and we're looking to find commonality between the 5 different courses you're doing. So where is the central theme that runs through the course you're looking to do? Does it aid your career aspirations? How is it assessed? We have a student here who's come back to work for us for the summer, and actually they've just finished their course and they weren't assessed formally in an exam room for the entire 3 years. That's not how their course was structured. It was purely based on coursework. Are you that person, or do you thrive under the pressure of having the final exam? And most courses you will find are assessed by examinations, but there are various marking points that go into 3 years. And most courses carry a dissertation as well. Are you ready for what a dissertation actually has to cover? Most importantly, are you interested in your course? It's really, really very, very simple there. Choosing a university, choosing a course is exactly the same as going shopping. You buy what it is that you want at the end of the day, if you have the currency for it. The currency in this question is the grades. I want you to be as aspirational as possible from the outset. I want you to have, basically when you have 5 choices, I want you to have 2 very good courses in there, the dreams, the aspirations that you really want to gravitate towards. I want 2 within the middle bracket there, which are good universities, which you feel like you would really be happy to go to if the first 2 dreams didn't quite come through. So you've basically got 4 that are absolutely rock solid. The 5th is usually used by people as the insurance choice. So it's a lower grade offer that you're putting in there. So aspirational grades, achievable grades, and a lower grade offer that you're definitely going to hit. With the lower grade offer that you're definitely going to hit when you're choosing your course, obviously you have to make sure that if you were to get that particular course, you're going to want to go there. Otherwise, you're just wasting an application in there too. So find a course with a lower grade requirement, but don't just put it in because it has lower grades. Put it in because equally you've done your due diligence, you've done your research, you've matched it up to your shopping list. It's got commonality with the other 4 courses, and you could go there. All right. Otherwise, they're so often seen that people just waste that 5th choice. So 5 courses, make sure you've got it. There is absolutely no excuse actually for not choosing 5 courses out of 118 universities. Okay. So choosing the university is fairly simple. UCAS website, bit of Google, obviously go to open days, virtual open days. Now the world opens up again, go visit them. Here's a tip. Universities, campuses, they're public spaces. They are open to the public to go and wander and look around. So if you miss an open day, you can still go and visit the university and get that gut feeling and that sense. You might not necessarily be talking to a member of the admissions team there, but students do campus tours all the time. You just need to register for them on the university website. So you can go, you can talk to the students, you can get a good look round, okay? If you have the academic questions, it goes back to what we said last week, and all you do is you contact the department, you have a chat with them, and you ask the questions that are pertinent to you. You've just missed the talk, the lecture that everyone goes to at the start, but otherwise you can still see the university, and please do go. Now the world is opening up for this sort of thing again. Actually being there is so much better than the virtual side of things too. So we've got about, I'm going to look at this for about 10 minutes, basically. Interviewing. Majority of people will never be interviewed for university. So what I'm trying to do with this quick interview segment is not only look at interviews for university, I want it to be relevant for how you approach your first jobs as well. And first jobs doesn't mean when you've left university per se. It means the interviews you do for jobs while at university. And if you can, try and get a job while at university too, because it gives you a nice grounding, nice preparation for when you leave university. It helps you network, and the world runs on networking, Okay, and it builds a CV that will be so useful to you when you leave. When you leave university, the job market is fiercely competitive at the top end, and employers are looking for people who have been proactive throughout the course of university itself. So we found the university, we found the careers prospects, and on the careers prospects side of things, also look at fairs, graduate fairs that happen at the university. So lots of universities have better links with businesses and employers than others. Have a look at the fairs and the graduates, the graduate employers that are there, because they will offer internships out throughout the course, and that's where the interviewing now becomes relevant. An interview is basically just a conversation. If you think about what it is a structured meeting between you, the university, the employer. It's a skill like any other. And how do you practice skills? You just practice them. Okay, you hone your skill by practicing, and practicing will eventually just get you to being where you need to be. All right, it's a two-way street, always. People forget this, but the balance of power in an interview should always be 50-50. It should be cut and thrust. It should never be so heavily weighted that one person has the keys to what you want. What ultimately it should be is they also need to work hard to convince you, because they should believe that you also have other options. So see it as 50-50 whenever you sit down to a conversation. They're attempting to determine if you're an appropriate fit, either for the university or the job and their culture. You need to decide if actually you like them and you can see yourself working there. That is so important to know. Don't take a job or a place at any cost. It would be wrong to do. Now, you have different types of interviews. Obviously, we've just come through the last 20 months of people doing everything online. So MS Teams and Zoom interviews are par for the course. It used to, in the old times, be the phone interview first. Now it's the Teams interview, but these are screening interviews. And you might find you get a screening interview first. Never for university, but for a job, you might get a screening interview for you first to whittle down the pile. If you get the screening interview, you've been longlisted. After you get through the screening interview, you become shortlisted from there. One-on-one interviews are quite common, particularly at university. If you were to have an interview there, just sitting down with a lecturer. Sometimes a panel or a group is used in later stages where you have to do presentations. If you're applying for internships nowadays, having to do a presentation is a well-used tool, and it's generally done to 2 or 3 partners or senior persons who will actually assess your ability to be able to come on board and do the research in the time frame that you have available. Like choosing anything, research, okay? Research what you're selling. You can tailor yourself to the company, to the university, to actually look attractive. Know who you are then, okay? Be able to be articulate, come in with your strengths, your accomplishments, your career goals. People who know who they are fly through these sorts of things because you're an honest representation of yourself. While we're saying tailor yourself to the business, we're never saying lie about who you are. Okay, people, particularly interviewers, see through that side of things. Read everything that they've asked you to prepare, have necessary materials at hand, but also have a little bit of something else as well. Okay, think of it like A-levels. A-levels will work if you know how to pass them, but the people who do really well are the people who do a little bit more wider reading beyond that bit. So research the company, research the university, know what it is that you're walking into there. Always arrive on time. Definitely try and arrive early. Okay. It's no excuse to ever being late. I am a hypocrite with that. I think I've always been late in my life, which is a terrible thing, but always make sure you are there early so you're ready and raring to go. First impressions count enormously. You never, ever, ever turn up and give a bad first impression because you're on the back foot before you start. And in many ways, you've already lost it before you've begun. So you dress appropriately, you smile, eye contact is absolutely important, the firm handshake, the posture, the position, the confidence that exudes. Okay, don't be a quiet mouse, don't be a loud person, just be yourself when you do that and just be really confident. So you come in looking like the part that you want to play. Okay. And then we go into body language. Those who do psychology and sociology will understand a little bit more about this, but body language gives people a lot of indicators. And when an interviewer is actually interviewing you, they're not only listening to what you're saying, they're observing how you do it. So if you're fidgeting, if you're drumming, if you're slouching, if you're doing all these, you're lying back in your chair, you are being judged on these sorts of things. So we look for positive indicators: the leaning forward, the smiling, the nodding, the eye contact. Always maintain eye contact. Interviewers can also be quite nervous people in themselves, so you want to work to keep their eye contact and not allow them to wander off themselves. Okay, observe their body language too. Often a nice little trick in interviewing is mirroring, so mirror what they are doing there, as long as they're not slouching in their chair, but mirror the signals that you're getting from someone else. If you cross your arms, you're coming across as a bit defensive and a bit reluctant to actually talk. If you're fidgeting, it's nervousness, or it can also be boredom. We don't want to give off boredom. Lack of eye contact makes you untrustworthy. There's this idea that if you're looking in different directions, you're either lying or you're trying to think of something to make it up. So ultimately, lack of eye contact is a negative. And leaning back often also shows discomfort. We do a lot of training with would-be doctors on things like this, because doctors, it's so important to exude the right sort of body language and signals. And most people don't know it because you're not taught it. Again, we're racing through this, but you will have the presentation afterwards. So types of interview questions are usually quite simple. They're never actually there to trip you up. Tell me about yourself. Strengths, weaknesses, so make a list of your strengths and weaknesses before you go in, really know what that is. Why do you want to interview with us, the university or the employer? What is it that draws you to that university or that company? What did you like most about school? That often trips people up in there when you're asked to think back to school and the sort of things that you might have done there. So always think of what took you to this stage, what you've liked in your life, what you've not liked in your life, and how that can take you forward. What are your career goals? What is the plan? The plan is not now. You don't need to say that this is going to be the only job or the only university you're ever going to go to. You need to just say what it is in the future. This is the here and now. What is 10 years? What is 5 years? What is your plan? Okay. If you don't know your plan, don't make it up. Just say, I'm developing that as I go on at this moment in time, but these are my current thoughts. Then you'll get some behavioral questions usually, and these focus on your actions or behaviors from previous settings, so the judgments that you make. What is your moral and ethical compass? Medicine, again, is a good example because we do a lot on medical ethics and trying to actually work out if someone is suitable to become a doctor and be let loose on patients or anything else. But employers look at these in terms of, do you have the right decision making? Are you mature enough to go forward? Universities also want to ask similar sorts of questions if you were to be called to interview. Past behavior provides a clue to future behavior. That's true and it's not true at the same time. People can change, but you want to make sure that anything you're saying is a good demonstration of what you want to be considered to be. So samples for you again: describe a time you made difficult decisions, how did you overcome adversity, those sorts of things. That's always quite useful. And more often than not, people talk about their driving test, for example, or they found a particular problem in a subject at school and therefore they took on some extra tutors, or they did some extra reading and they worked through it. Whatever it might be, just come up with some simple examples, and the best ones to do are describe a time that you encountered difficulty and how you overcame difficulty. It's the most common interview question ever used by anyone at any stage. Or, when did you make a mistake? Everyone makes mistakes. We all make those at any point in our lives. It's not the mistake that matters, it's about how you fix the mistake. Never get to the stage where you feel like you have to answer everything if you don't feel the question is appropriate. It shouldn't happen nowadays that there are any inappropriate questions, particularly not at universities. Universities will never ask you anything political, for example, or anything religious, because it is not their business and they shouldn't be swayed either way. It's like saying, which football team do you support? And if you say Man United and the other person's a Liverpool fan, then they're judging you based on that. That's an inappropriate question, all right? So anything inappropriate or unethical is something that probes into your private life or personal background, and do not feel you ever have to answer these sorts of questions. You have the full weight of HR and the law on your side. And those would be questions about your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, religion, disabilities, for example. It cannot happen that these are questions in an interview, and you can decline a question by saying, I do beg your pardon, but I do not feel comfortable answering that question. And then they'll move straight on from there, okay? You need to ask questions. Okay, sensible questions, questions that you couldn't just have found from the website or found from the material of that particular company. Questions like, what's the workload like? What extracurricular activities right now? What's the biggest challenge facing this company? And where do you see this company in 5 years? These are really smart, intelligent questions. So come up with 4 or 5 questions that you could ask from the outset. Why 4 or 5? Because you're not going to ask 4 or 5 questions, but the chances are when you're nervous and under pressure, you're going to forget 4 of them and remember 1. So as long as you have some questions ready to go, that is the key. That is the most important thing. And then always ask, whether it's university or career, what is the next step from here? You need to walk out of there knowing. If it's a job, never ask the money question. You're too young in your career to say, what's the salary? Okay, that will come later from HR. You just want to ask what the next courses of action from here are. If you don't ask that question, think of how it comes across to a university or a company. Okay, what it shows is that you might not be a proactive person. You might not care about strategy and process. All you cared about was this meeting. They want people who think beyond this meeting. So be prepared to talk about yourself, be honest, be able to talk about experiences in your life, master the art of storytelling, which I told you about on day 1. You are your story, your narrative. Make it interesting, make it colorful within there, make it incomplete. Your story is not over. Your story has only just begun. So we're telling the starting point of a story. See it that way. See it as a conversation that you're just sat down talking with someone else. Buddy up with friends, family, talk to people before you go into an interview, get them to ask you questions, become confident and more confident talking to people about anything. Talk about topics, talk about subjects you don't know. Remember the and what scenario. Try and explain things to people that you take for granted, just so you never take something for granted in an interview itself. Be positive, be enthusiastic, be confident in the body language, the eye contact, etc., all the way throughout. Don't go don't be colloquial with it, all right? That's just a sign that your brain's got lazy. You need to be sharp on that particular day, all right? I guess, maybe pretty good, all of these sorts of things, they're not definitive. They show that you don't have the ability to be decisive when you need to be decisive. Take a breath before you speak. Pauses are not a bad thing. People fear silence, but silence is your most powerful tool because it makes 2 people feel uncomfortable. But what it does is make 2 people ready for the answer and you're thinking it through. And for me as an interviewer, it's a big tick when someone stops before they say something to me because I know that what they're going to say to me is worth the value of the admissions ticket that I've paid for this interview. Okay. If you're speaking for too long, shut yourself down. The curse of the English, my biggest fault, is you talk too long, you're not decisive enough, okay? International students are much better at being completely to the point in terms of what you're saying, so you just remember to be that. If you don't hear the question, get someone to repeat it. Don't just answer what you think is the right thing. So be calm, be yourself, all right? Don't try and think, oh gosh, this is going well, this is going badly. Just be present and in the moment. Afterwards, you can grab a coffee, you can chat to your mum, your friends and go, I think that went well or I think that went bad. But don't try and gauge it during the interview itself. Interviewers have a wonderful way of either putting people at ease or if someone's too relaxed, turning up the pressure. So you'll never really know how well it is that you have done. All right? Be smart, be presentable. We've got all of those. Have a wash. I know it's a silly thing to say, but so many people do miss these sorts of important triggers. Just make sure you're clean and always good. Be yourself, but be conservative. Don't be an extrovert. Don't make jokes within the interview. Just be normal, for want of a better term. Good questions. And thank someone at the end. It's the follow-up that also is the thing that either gets you the place or gets you the job. It's the courtesy of being able to say to someone, thank you for the time that you've taken with me. And again, go back to inquiring about the next steps in the process or follow up with something I forgot to mention to you at the time is this, but do make sure that you are doing a follow-up to it. Courtesy is everything in this world and networking, again, to repeat the point to you, is king, okay? Within 24 hours. The handwritten letters are always actually quite interesting nowadays because no one ever does them. The world of writing a letter has gone. Everyone emails, and an email is absolutely fine and acceptable. But if you want to be different, you want to stand out, and your handwriting is legible enough for this, pen them a letter and get it sent in the post. Otherwise, an email is fine. Tailor each one to the individual university or career that you are trying to, the employer that you're talking to, because otherwise it looks generic, and generic smells from a mile off. Final thoughts. Only about 15%, just really take this on board, only about 15% of success in an interview is out of your control. Everything else is about you in that moment. The greatest percentage is you can change the direction of someone's thought by being you in that moment for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. 15% of it is out of your control. Everything else is you telling your story. Master the storytelling aspect. And afterwards, then take some time to reflect, go over it so that the next interview you go to, you've got some thoughts in there as well. All right. The test runs, get a friend, get a member of staff, talk to a parent, get someone to do it, practice, 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 and always get them to say, and so what? The vanity aspect, don't overlook the vanity aspect either. Staring at yourself in the mirror and rehearsing your answers is equally a good thing to do. Try and not be over prepared though, no matter what. Try and not just have the same answer that you regurgitate out. You also need to think of it a bit like acting on screen. It always makes you feel uncomfortable watching a film where you can tell that the actor is acting versus, and that always is seen between English drama and American drama actually. Try and think of it as the films that you watch where you believe the character, not that you can notice that they're acting. Okay, if you can notice someone's acting, you don't believe them. If you can't notice they're acting, then obviously you do believe them. So try and just be very relaxed in that, and make sure you're well rested before then. Okay. Right, we do have a few questions that you can do. We won't do them together, but you can just have a look at them. These are stock questions. Try and answer these when you're choosing your university itself. If you can answer the future questions before you even choose the university, then it's a good way of choosing the university. All right, it's quite a perverse way of looking at it, or a reverse way of looking at it, but quite a helpful tool and technique as well. Okay. Try and go through to give the examples, okay? Or if you were to build something new. This one's a great question, actually. If you were asked to build a new university, which subject would you not include and why? And it's really helpful when choosing a university to answer this question, because it actually gets you, it forces you to consider what you go shopping for. And then once you've designed the perfect university and what it is you want to see there, you then find the university from the UCAS list that you might be looking for that is suitably matched to the dream university that you've done. Okay, and some slightly bigger questions within there, like the effect of the economies and all of those sorts of things. Universities to a number now are roughly the same in terms of value and cost. Try and bear in mind, if you're an international student from Europe, you are paying the same fees as any domestic student when you're applying to Scotland now. The Scottish bias has eroded away, so you no longer have the free education up in Scotland. So it's always going to be fee paying. Brexit's had a heavy say on those sorts of things. If you're not European based, nothing's changed for you. Domestically, nothing's changed for you. You're still paying the same fees. All Brexit has really done is said that European students also pay roughly the same amount, but not exactly the same amount. And look, you've had Oxbridge in different ways. There's some Oxbridge questions based on here. Why do we include Oxbridge questions as a final thought? Because not because you might be applying for Oxbridge, you might not, but actually all Oxbridge questions do is they seem strange, but they're there to elicit a conversation. So don't practice the university questions based on this, but do grab a mate at some point and actually go through questions like this, because it will just encourage you to think about different things, talk about different things, come up with new ideas. An Oxbridge interview relies solely upon seeing how you think, not necessarily whether you get the right answer or not, because if you give one answer, the skill of the interviewer is to actually present the other side of the view of the coin to you and argue that one and try and sway your view in different ways. So do try and actually come up with these sorts of questions yourself. All right. Good. Fine. I did say I'll stop at 1:45 so we could ask questions based upon the last 4 weeks, and I will because I have to let you go in 4 or 5 minutes time. But do you have any questions based upon how you choose a university, how you choose a course, anything to do with interviews, personal statements, or anything there in between? What I will say as well, just to round off what I'm saying, is you're welcome to contact at any point to actually ask the questions. If you're already going to be an MPW student, you'll get it here as part of the course with our staff. If you're not an MPW student, you're just joining us for this program, terrific. Once again, I'll put the email address into the message chat. Do feel free to talk to us because we're here to be able to answer these questions as we go along. But to round off my 4 weeks with you, does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? I'm probably anticipating the answer to that is no. Bearing in mind how quiet we've all been over the past 4 weeks, but hopefully something's gone in and you've taken it on board. The presentations are here to be reviewed, to be looked at. Please do go back through them because there's so much material in all of these, particularly on the interview ones today, so you can actually go back and grab the interview questions. Helen, thank you for being my biggest participant, I suppose, over the past 4 weeks as well. So it's a pleasure to have you with us again today.
James, may I ask a question?
You may.
The question is, do all universities make interviews, or it depends on something?
No, so it's a really good question, to be honest. And just going back to what I said before, the chances of you being interviewed for a university are so slim. Universities dropped the interviewing process when they had too many applicants because they didn't know how to get through everything in time. It's definitely the case that for medicine, dentistry, veterinary and Oxbridge, you will be interviewed. For engineering courses now and some psychology courses, for example, they do interview. So really, when you're doing your research, just double check whether that university wants an interview. So the majority, Oksana, the answer is no, but there will be some that do. So the interviewing side was not only to be for the universities, it's designed for how you actually get a job whilst at university and the other side.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Any other questions at all? You're most welcome. Look, to everyone, thank you for joining me and MPW particularly over the past 4 weeks. For me, it has been a pleasure. I do love what I do and I do love doing this sort of thing. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. As I said, I'm just putting my email address into the contact box here. And if you need anything, be in touch. In the meantime, though, have a good rest of your day. Enjoy the final day of the course and enjoy the rest of the summer.